Welcome aboard. It's time for another adventure, and by adventure I mean it's time for me to talk about D&D for like 15 minutes while colors go zoom on the screen. Anyways, a couple of months ago I drew a pair of fish sisters because I joined a campaign where we, as ourselves, got isekai'd into a D&D world with randomly generated class and race combos, where I ended up with a Triton character, which is a race that I have never played before. It has been a super fun game with a lot of cool features, and I thought it was about time I draw this chaos crew. But before that, I do want to say I have gotten so many awesome plant and mushroom suggestions from everyone. Thank you so much. If you haven't sent a mushroom or plant yet to be made into a character for my mushroom milestone for reaching 500 subs, there is still a chance for you to do so either in the comments of this video, my last video, or on Instagram or Twitter. But I have many suggestions already, and I promise that that's coming up very soon. I just wanted to have a chance to thank everyone for all their awesome suggestions. Alright, let's get into the drawing. So, it has been a minute since you have seen me do a red line sketch for the characters. This is because I didn't have good ideas for colors right out the gate, nor did I really have strong ideas for what everyone would look like. Since we got teleported to this other dimension, I wasn't sure if it was obvious that we were ourselves appearance-wise, and to be honest, I've only met half of the group in person. We do all our D&D over Discord, so I only kind of know what everyone looks like, and you can see I made myself a little reference list of what everyone is and started blocking out shapes, starting with the characters that I had a pretty good idea of what they would look like, and then moving on to characters I was less sure about. Right out the gate, we have the Lizard Folk Ranger, which is what my partner plays. We have a Fairy Barbarian, we have the Triton Bard, which is me, and we have a Kenku Blood Hunter, and then you'll see I rough in a couple of dwarves, one of which is a sorcerer and one which is a barbarian. Also, just to clarify, I will not be calling these characters by name because we all go by our real names in game, and even while I'm probably not going to unintentionally dox someone by giving out just their first name, better safe than sorry, and also better respectful of boundaries that I don't know than needing to backtrack later down the line. The whole getting teleported as ourselves into a different world has been an interesting experience to say the least. First off, almost all of the characters I have rolled have relatively middling stats, and the proficiency bonuses, especially at low levels, don't really add a whole lot as far as flavor in terms of great success or terrible failures. These characters were based on ourselves and our in real life assumed stats, and I'm gonna share with you what I have, and they were also agreed upon by my fellow players. You know, high stats, I'm not trying to be like, ooh, I'm so smart, I know things, just to clarify. But if you do want to provide constructive criticism, I accept it, but only in the form of a 5-part opera. Thank you. So let's start at the top of the list of my stats. My charisma. It's actually a kind of impressive 17, which at level 3, that's pretty high. While I do have a lot of social anxiety and am an introvert and in general hate big social events, I truly haven't come across someone that I can't have a good conversation with. I find that most people are willing to be relatively open and honest with me upon meeting me, and that there are very few people in the world that I find myself at odds with. Also, all of the other players kind of agreed with this stat and actually told me to make it a little higher, and it's a good thing that they did because I ended up being a bard, and I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a high charisma. Coming in at second place is my wisdom, which is at 16, and then followed by intelligence at 15. I have an engineering degree. I guess that counts as being book smart. As far as intelligence goes, wisdom and intelligence, the skills are sort of split up in a weird way. For example, I have been told I have pretty good insight, which is a wisdom stat. However, my navigational abilities, which I would consider a survival skill, which is also a wisdom skill, is terrible. So personally, I'm dicey on whether or not this should be that high. If I could have personally manually debuffed my survival ability specifically out of all the rest, I would have, but unfortunately that's not how D&D Beyond works, and I didn't make a physical copy of my character sheet. And then the rest of my stats drop quite low. The only reason that my strength is at an 11 is because Tritons get a buff to strength. strength. In real life, I think I am strong for a 5-foot tall person, but I'm not above averagely strong across the board. Next is my constitution, which is an 8. But again, it's only an 8 because Tritons get a stat increase to their constitution. In real life, I have had asthma as long as I can remember. I got sick a lot growing up, and I still do pretty frequently get sick. And straight up can just get sick because sometimes I eat too fast or I feel too anxious about something. So yeah, that's a correct constitution stat. And last but not least, my dexterity, which is a beautiful 7. That would be a -2 to all of my rolls. You would not believe how many zeros I have rolled. Not even the jack of all trades ability for bards has helped me to get out of that one. I have never eaten something and not spilled. My hands are incredibly shaky, and I have broken so much glassware in my lifetime. Sometimes I just fall over when walking on flat ground. And oh boy, I was almost going to be a rogue, and thank goodness that I wasn't, because like I said, I have failed pretty much every single dexterity check that I've had to make this entire campaign, which is very on brand for me, but I would have made the world's worst rogue. Just real quick before I get into talking about the campaign and what's happened so far, I do want to talk about this color choice for my Triton character. That is a nod towards my beta fish Noodles, who is an orange, black, and white little guy. I just thought it would be a cute nod towards a real life pet that I have. Okay, on to campaign details. As I said, the premise of this campaign is that basically all of us either died or got teleported into an alternate universe. We're still kind of unclear about the whole if you die in game, you die in real life, whether or not that's the situation, but regardless, we are now random D&D characters. We have a dwarven clockwork soul sorcerer, a fairy wild magic barbarian, a Triton College of Eloquence bard, a lizard folk Drake Warden ranger, and yes, that is my husband's true desire, to be a lizard with a pet lizard. We have a Kenku, Order of the Profane Soul Blood Hunter, and a dwarven Path of the Berserker barbarian. As you can see, our group is a little ill-balanced and a little dysfunctional, but we have a lot of fun. Up until I have 1 healing spell left and 2 people are down to 1 hit point and the bad guy isn't done dealing damage yet. Our group kind of gets teleported from place to place as we finish different sections. We started out in a very classic dungeon cave where we crawled deeper and deeper, heard some distant strange laughter, and saw some shiny threads leading us down various tunnels. In the first dungeon, we fought an injured ogre type of creature, and I also pushed a button because I wanted to know what it did, and then promptly set off a trap that skewered almost every single other player to death, which my bad. But then we solved an underwater puzzle and got flushed into a drain, and then got sent to a perfectly white room with 1 man in it, who told us we did great and we were super entertaining, and then sent us to the next dungeon. Dungeon number 2 was another sort of typical fantasy village situation. The whole village was under attack by orcs that were commanded by a mysterious mage in a cave on the outskirts of town. That mage was actually one of our friends who decided to be a guest for the session, and he played a Kenku with necromancer abilities. He did get me to 0 hit points, but my husband managed to get me back up with a health potion, and I too sent the enemy to 0 hit points, so that was fun. We went deeper into the cave system and found some weird door sword puzzles and a horrible skeleton guy who did a lot of damage, and then several rooms that were full of spiders, and I thoroughly hated it because with as low of a dex as I have, I immediately got yoinked by the spider and deeper into its lair. Luckily, we managed to just barely scrape by with 2 of our players at 1 hit point. It was at this point that we pushed another button, and that brought us all back to that strange white room with the strange single man, and he congratulated us again. We got to our 3rd level, and then he sent us off to our next destination, which is where we are right now. And I'm not sure if you can tell by the name of the file, but I was really excited about this one. I love a pirate ship and pirate crew D&D situation. This is actual footage of me the moment I found out we were on a pirate ship. And not only am I excited because I think the high seas are in general a really cool setting, but also because I'm playing a Triton character. This is my time to shine. I have so many water specific abilities and I'm just really freaking excited to use them. Also, I just finished watching a Dredge playthrough and Now, I don't think we're going to be summoning the Kraken or anything, which is fine. Watching Dredge just makes me very excited for sea-themed experiences in general. Hey, and if anyone is wondering why the Kenku is holding a piece of paper that says bacon on it, this is because of the Kenku's very fun feature known as mimicry, where essentially a Kenku can only speak words that it has heard before. And this can be played a couple of different ways, but the way that our player does it is that he's been keeping a list of his favorite words that have been spoken at the table to use at his own discretion. I offered to help him come up with a more comprehensive list of useful words, but he refused, as he is very much enjoying the whole learn as you go thing, and also he's very much enjoying using our words against us. One of the earliest words that the Kenku learned was bacon, which has been his response to almost everything positive or indifferent. I know I've spent very little time in this video talking about my drawing process and what I struggled with and whatnot, but in general, this was just an incredibly enjoyable, low-stress piece to work on, which is something I've really been needing lately. I think I've got much better at managing my new schedule, but there is definitely still a lot of adjusting that needs to be done. Nonetheless, I think the hardest part of the drawing was deciding whether or not I had to make the characters look like the people in real life. So there was a lot of creative liberty taken, especially since pretty much none of the players in real life translate particularly well into their characters. Although I would argue, and take this as you will, but I think lizard folk was a good choice for my husband. And no, I will not elaborate. But behold, pirates! This drawing took me a surprisingly short amount of time, just under 5 hours total, which I suppose you could argue was about an hour more or less per character since the fairy doesn't really have a ton of real estate on the page. But still, I think I brought out some really fun designs that are sort of out of my comfort zone in the time that it took to finish this. Also, yet again, not really helping my case where I claim that I don't draw anthropomorphic creatures, and yet for a second week in a row, here we are again. If you have any of your own pirate D&D adventures, or any strange party constructions or games, or even some interesting close calls that you've had in game, I would love to hear it. Leave a comment. I know I've been a little slower than usual in getting back to everyone, but I promise I read them all and I love them all. But that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and congrats to everyone out there who is finishing up school, whether it's just the end of the year or graduation or whatever else it may be. I am super proud of you. Making it another year is an incredible and difficult thing to do. Or maybe it wasn't difficult because you're a super genius. That's cool, but who knows? Not me.